Science is simply a word to describe a method of organizing our curiosity. Today, I want to talk to you about success using the principles of science and physics, as I think that physics is one of the most important ways that we can actually think about life. And Elon Musk says that physics is a really good framework for thinking, because using first principles reasoning means that you can boil things down to their fundamental truths and reason up from there, as opposed to trying to reason by analogy. And though I don't speak about it a lot on this podcast, my first love in terms of intellectual stuff was actually physics. And I had science scholarships based on my physics to schools. And it was only at university where I became more into biology and psychology. So, welcome to the Growth Mindset podcast. Today, we're talking about physics and success in our pursuits. Now, the reason I'm using physics is because everything happens for a verifiable reason. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. In life, we kind of get our judgment clouded by lots of other things that we think are going on, when really there are some very concrete things that we can verify of what we're doing to get to our success that either we are or not doing properly. And so in this podcast, I'm going to talk about our creative or business or work-based pursuits and how we can quickly work out whether or not they will be successful using some basic first principles of physics. So I'm going to start with an analogy around density. So if you think about the density of an object, it determines its position when it's within another object. So imagine that you have a liquid, a lake of water, say. Things will rise within that lake or fall within that lake depending on their density in comparison to the water. So a balloon filled with gas will be lighter than the water in the lake, and it will rise very quickly like a bubble to the surface. A stone in the lake will sink directly to the bottom, and that's just physics. A bubble of air will always rise within water. A stone will always fall. You can't break this law of physics. However, let's say you put something within a solid, even if it's more dense or less dense, it won't rise because it can't move because it's in a solid. So let's say you were to put a diamond or a marshmallow inside a brick wall. Neither the diamond nor the marshmallow will move at all because the bricks are solid. Now, that might sound obvious, but trust me, these are very important basic concepts to understand that will really help you understand life afterwards. Because success is related to the competition pool that you are in. The same is true for a piece of content or a business, or let's say a person applying for a job. Now, the density of, let's say, of a person could be translated to the value. Now, the density of your piece of content or business or a person is like the value or quality of that piece of content. And so a liquid medium, and then if you think about the liquid, the medium that is in, that's just the market of competition. So anything offering better quality than the competition will rise naturally. Anything that is worse will naturally fall. So if you think about a creator on YouTube or Instagram or podcasting, their popularity will go up or down based on if they are better or worse than everything else around them. And again, there are some fixed rules where actually you can't compete and there is no movement. So let's say someone was a really talented fisherman, but he's in a desert. There's no chance for him to show how good a talented fisherman he is because he just can't fish in the desert. So his talent won't move his success an inch. Now, this seems easy to think about, but so many people make businesses or content where they just aren't going to be the best. And they'll find that their effort leads nowhere and they can get confused and I've fallen for this mistake myself. And so we really have to think about how we will stand out. And wise people choose battles that they can win. The more niche you might go with your business or a piece of content, the less competition that you will have to fight against. And you have many options on how to make your content more niche. You could diversify on the topic, the location, the language, the length, the style, or you can just diversify on the depth. So you can actually just go much, much deeper on a topic than everyone's gone before to actually really have a niche of your own. And you can just see this in podcasts like Dan Carlin's Hardcore Histories. He'll do 4-hour massive deep dives into a single topic that just no other podcast creator was creating. And he became one of the most popular history podcasts around just by diversifying on depth. For a business, you can go more niche by changing the industry, the audience. You can bundle things together. You can unbundle things. There's so many options, but whatever you're creating needs to offer something original and unique to stand out, or it has to be a lot better in terms of quality or a lot cheaper or something that differentiates it from what else is around there. Otherwise, people won't care about it. And now to go further on this, it really matters around the direct competition that you have. I know people always say that when you do things, you shouldn't obsess about the competition. But if you imagine that you're like quite a good singer and you go to an open mic, if you're surrounded by people that are terrible at singing, you're going to look really good. But if you go to an open mic and Ed Sheeran, Beyonce, and Adele turn up, you're going to look useless and no one will remember your name at all or that you're even there. And I do agree that you just shouldn't obsess about the competition and you shouldn't not start things if you aren't necessarily going to do it brilliantly straight away. It's a journey where you will get better and better. But there are some things where if you're expecting success straight away, you will feel really bad if you actually have the wrong approach. Now, you should apply this to anything. So for writing, I write a philosophical blog where I just don't expect anyone to read it because I just enjoy writing it and I'm doing it for myself. But I know there's a lot of people that write philosophical blogs on anywhere. And I just wanted to get better at writing. And it didn't actually matter about the audience. But I've also started writing something that's much easier for me to write that doesn't necessarily teach me as much, but it just offers something way more unique for the audience. Just breaking down some of the top performing videos on YouTube from creators that just spend like no time putting the video together with like no budget and just showing people the kind of simple ways that they can break out on YouTube. And that's something that just has a very clear niche and a clear goal for people. And so people want to read it, even though it's actually quite simple for me and less challenging. And so if you're thinking about your writing, how can you bundle it into a perspective that either people really want to read or you'll just really enjoy doing it? It needs to be one of those to be something that you'll keep doing. If you think about trying to apply for a job and the way that you interview, no one's going to hire like the middle candidate of the people that turn up for interview. They hire the best person out of the selection that they have on the day. Now, the important here is the best person of the selection that they have. So you have to just take context of the pool in which you're being compared. And when you do something, you just need to be better than the people you're being compared to, which means just putting extra time into making your CV sound bloody awesome, really thinking about like what those people are looking for in a candidate, if that matches you and how you can like show that you care about those skills. And that's going to be something that you want to do. And I think for getting jobs, so many people just don't put in that extra effort around working out what the company's trying to do and just offering a little bit of extra flavor to make them stand out around how they're going to help that company achieve their goals and be a great person to work with. And that just helps you stand out. If you run a business, you'll know that people are the most important thing in the company. Every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for a small business owner because it is. Now, you want to be certain that you have the best candidates and screening tools available for you, which is why I recommend LinkedIn Jobs. I found it so easy to use for my hiring, and it makes it faster to find the right people for your team. And it's free. It's simple to set up your job, add screening questions so you're talking to the right people, and put the purple hiring frame on your profile, and you're ready to go. You can use LinkedIn Jobs to find qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster for free. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/growth. That's linkedin.com/growth, GROWTH for the unfortunate people at spelling like myself. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And now onto the next section of adaptation, because things don't stay the same. Sure, a lake of water is always going to be the same density, but let's talk about podcasts, for example. I started the Growth Mindset podcast when there were no mindset podcasts out there. That meant I didn't have much competition and it was quite easy. But what works today may not work tomorrow. And now there are many podcasts on mindset. To be honest, my podcast used to grow really fast, then it stopped growing, and then it started getting smaller until I started like thinking about what people are really trying to listen to and find, and had to start adapting it to actually suit people's listening. So my podcasts are generally shorter, and they're generally more of me talking on a clear topic as opposed to interviewing people about anything, because there are so many people interviewing people nowadays that you kind of need to be a famous person interviewing another famous person to get your interview listened to. And I'm not very famous. I may as well talk about things that I know about and give a more structured intellectual piece of information that you can learn from than talk to people on ADVERT. Or in the same way, if you want to make a pitch deck to raise money, you might look at the Airbnb pitch deck or the Uber pitch deck, but that was 12 years ago, and those pitch decks looked like crap. And today, investors are swimming in pitch decks and they need a way to filter them. And so they will always want a pitch deck that looks amazing because it's just an easy way for them to filter. If you've ever heard of Laurel and Hardy, they were the original people that did funny dancing, and they had an entire film crew to record a video that wasn't even that brilliant. But now you have TikTok and everyone can do a funny dance, to the point where people don't even do funny dances on TikTok anymore because it's kind of. Now, I'm going to go a little bit further into the solid wall analogy because there's a few extra ideas on this besides the fisherman in the desert example. So like I said, the marshmallow or a diamond inside a fixed wall won't go anywhere, and the density of those objects just make no difference to their position. And your talent could be amazing, but completely wasted in your area. And so if you're a diamond, it's really important to work out where your value belongs as quickly as possible so you can start actually rising. So a great singer in a tiny village might do better to go to Broadway or LA, where there is more competition, but people are actually looking for singers. Because if you're just surrounded by people that don't even look for talent, they might like you, but they're just never going to share your content or help you grow. It's also important to realize there are games you just can't win. You may well be the best candidate for a job, but if the boss wants to hire their son, you're not going to get the job. That's a fact of life, and you can just move on and aim for a job where you could actually get hired. It's also important to remember that you can't succeed in places where the rules go against you, even if the competition is low. So some absurd examples. Let's say you want to film videos of yourself naked. You're not going to get people on LinkedIn to pay for them. Yes, there's plenty of rich people looking for a distraction from their real work, so there's no competition, but it's against the terms of service of LinkedIn. So you still have to go to another service for sharing videos of yourself naked. And you can't make a cannabis shop in the UK because it is simply illegal. And so you still have to go to Amsterdam where there's more competition, or various states in the US, etc. Now, that might seem obvious, but some people do sometimes get some silly ideas for opportunities that turns out are only opportunities because they're illegal. But within that stupidity is sometimes a bit of a genius idea, because you can find some very big opportunities where other people expect walls. And now I know that example sounds absurd, but actually you can sometimes have some very genius ideas in places where people expect to find a wall where they can't move at all. And there's a huge potential to stand out in the places where people conform to one way of doing things, but actually other things can be done. It's something I kind of alluded to in the Opportunity Window podcast a few weeks ago. So like I said, you can't build an OnlyFans style business on LinkedIn. Amaranth, for example, became one of the most successful OnlyFans earners, mainly through using her Twitch account before OnlyFans people started using Twitch as a place to market their assets. And on the subject of LinkedIn, it is a place mostly full of dry business content. And so a combination of humor and music in a video could really draw people's attention to a job advert or a fundraising idea, because most people on LinkedIn just aren't being original or different. So in general, there can be really big opportunities to stand out in areas where people expect people to conform, and you should dare to be different. Just don't go so far as to be illegal. Now, I have one really important final point to make before I summarize it. Now, this is that you can't grow or kickstart a project just being as good as other people around you. And this is something that people get wrong all the time, because if you start a project and you work really hard to deliver something just as good as what is already there, you will not succeed, because you just can't copy people and expect to get the same results as they are getting already if you're competing for attention or a market share in business or anything, because there's no reason for consumers to give time, attention, or money to an offering over the things that they already have, because they have trust in what they're already using. And so why would they try and find something else if it's actually not going to be any better? And if you think back to the analogy of the lake, a balloon will go up in a lake, but if you fill a balloon with water that's the same density as the water, it's not going to go anywhere. So if you start a podcast that's just as good as another podcast that's out there, no one's going to listen to that podcast because they have no reason to go and listen to it. So it's not going to grow to be as good as the other podcast that's out there. It's going to stay the same size. And when you start something, that size is nothing. So it's going to stay as nothing. You have to be better than what you might be copying if you want to grow. That's why you have to go into something that is either niche or much better. And this point is just so, so important because I get so many people coming to me with their business ideas or their podcast ideas or their YouTube ideas that aren't working. And they'll show me someone else that's doing something similar that is working. They're like, I'm doing everything just as good as this person. Why aren't I working? And I'm like, well, of course you're not working. It's just as good. It's not better. It's not different. It's the same. The audience has already got the thing. They don't need another thing that's the same. Like, you will never go anywhere if you're just as good as what's already there, because you're already too late. You are already after the person that is already there. You have to be different or you have to be better. And this is a really crushing one to come to terms with because you could put a lot of time into making something that is really good, but it just isn't better. And you just think that you should be able to get the same results by doing something as good, but you won't. So, in conclusion, context is everything. You shouldn't overanalyze competition in terms of stopping you from doing something, but you should be aware of the success that you will get from doing it. And if the reason that you're taking on a project is to be successful or have lots of people buy it or consume it, then you do need to really think about the competition and where you're being and how you come across compared to the other things around you. You do need to be incredible at choosing what you do and really have to study the context in which you do it. If you can find an area where you are better than your surroundings, you will always succeed. That can be by finding unusual surroundings or competing against the surroundings that already exist. Now, water will always push a bubble of air to the surface. If your work is better than everything else around it, it will rise above the rest. It's just a principle of physics, and you can't break the laws of physics. You are not Neo. There is no spoon. Don't just work on your talents without also working out where they belong. Now, thanks for listening. If you feel like leaving a good comment and/or rating, that would really help me stand out. And as always, life is about enjoying yourself, which does start with enjoying today, right now. So be kind to yourself and be kind to someone else. Yours physically, Sam.